of February 12th, 2014. Good evening, everyone. I guess we have a few items of interest to the community tonight, which is great to see people here. But our number one topic, I think, is number one on the agenda, and we'll let Dr. Stella start. Oh, okay, sorry, we'll have Margaret Hamilton, Chair of Beecher Road School Board of Education.
And I just wanted to say thank you to everybody involved in the Beecher Upgrade Project. This project has been many, many years in the works and has involved the time and energy of many, many people, multiple town building committees, multiple boards of selectmen, multiple boards of finance, education. But this Board of Selectmen brought a feasible project to the town. It was improved in a single vote, which I understand is historic. All day long, people told me they knew the referendum was going to pass, so apparently I was the only person in town worried at all about the outcome. So, yeah, okay, just a few of us. Everybody else knew. Yeah, I know. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you again to the Board of Selectmen and to everyone involved. This is a win for the entire town. This project is good for the town. It is a benefit to everybody. It's going to serve our school for a long time, and thank you for your vision, perseverance, and hard work. Thank you. And Dr. Stella, thank you. I can't stop smiling.
We're a tag team here, so I want to continue on that topic there. There was true joy at Beecher Road School today, and that's among children, teachers, staff members, and parents. I have never seen a town with as much positive collaboration between the town and school district as I do see here in Woodbridge. It's very, very obvious that the citizens of Woodbridge love their schools. And so my thanks are extended also to the Board of Education, to the Board of Finance and Selectmen, to the town committee. The town committee and many people looked at the upgrade. There were many things that they wanted to do, we all wanted to do. But this town, we're one town together, so we looked what's right for the children at the school and what's right for the taxpayer, how do we put it together so it's right for all of us in the town, and that's exactly what happened. So we express our sincerest thanks to all of you. We look forward to working with you in the days ahead. Thank you.
Before you go, Dr. Stella, we'd like to extend our thanks to you and to the entire faculty and staff for giving us such a wonderful school. And Margaret, to you and the Board of Education, you really did yeoman's work on this. And the building committee, we had several building committees who worked over the years. The last one really brought this to fruition. So as Dr. Stella said, there were so many people involved, but we're in a wonderful place. It is the first time we've had a referendum passed by 2/3, the first time, which was wonderful. And it was a 3-to-1 vote, almost 75% in favor. So it's an overwhelming indication of the support for the school and how much we value the school and education. So thank you, Dr. Stella, and thank you, Margaret. Thank you. So how does United Illuminating feel about following that?
Hopefully it was applause.
Right. So we thought, Mike, you were going to be presenting, but
It's actually going to be Jim Cole will be presenting.
Jim, okay. Okay, great.
Yeah, a couple of us.
Good. Okay. Well, there's been a lot of interest in the tree trimming and tree removal program. I know this is something that originated in Hartford with a change in state law, and UI and CLNP have been working on developing programs. They've generated quite a bit of controversy around the state, and I think it would be really helpful if you would give us an update. As I understand it, there's been at least a temporary pause in the program, and it's being revamped, but maybe you can explain to us, or whoever you want to have speak, about where we are in the process now, and then we'll have an opportunity for public question and answer while UI is here. Okay?
Yeah, no problem. I can give an overview of the program if people are not familiar with it. I can give some background of why we're doing this if you want. I mean, you can go in any direction you want. I can talk about recent work we've been doing. Wherever you want me to start is fine. We gave you a full presentation from nuts to bolts, and whoever would like that, we can also do that. We got plenty of UI reps here.
I think you should start with the background and the program. It's
Yep.
very important. And am I not correct that the program is now being reconsidered and revamped? I read that it was on hold. Right?
Well, it's not on hold. Actually, no, it's not on hold. What we requested what's called a technical session. All right, and that's what our regulator will do and provide and gather more input and more information from others about the final decision on the tree docket that's open. See, there's a couple of overlapping dockets here, and a docket is a legal proceeding that our regulator conducts that gives us approval to move forward with, certain things we want to do in programs. We present our plans, and they give us approval. And there's certain interveners that come in and provide perhaps support, or they oppose some parts of it. So, for example, the classic docket is a rate case where we go in for approval to increase our rates in some cases. It also includes a number of factors like programs we want to do, programs to reduce outages, infrastructure upgrades, substation rebuilds. There's a lot that goes into that docket, and it's a very extensive proceeding. And we just completed our last rate case docket last August. Part of that docket was approval to move forward with our new vegetation management program. And that was actually approved, and a final decision was struck at that point in time. It essentially gave us the authority and the money to start on January 1st of this year to start with our new vegetation management program. UI did not start the full program on January 1st. We've started what's called a pilot. So we reduced our program down substantially to our normal amount that we would trim, approximately 85% reduction, to go very, very slow right now, because part of the process is to get the communications out, to speak to all the towns, to speak to the public, get the information out. But we are doing some work in some select towns right now, just to understand how to go about do the permissioning and getting the word out and testing this new way of doing trimming for us. We selected it based on the poorest performing reliability circuits, tree-wise, tree contacts through these major storms. The pilot is in Hamden. There's an Orange, Shelton, and Bridgeport, and we're currently moving forward right there. It's very slow pace. It's approximately 40 miles over the first 6 months of this year, again, which is an 85% reduction in our normal program. No work is expected to be done in Woodbridge until after June 1st, and no tree can get removed unless we work through the process outlined in the state law. So the state law provides a lot of provisions for abutting property owners to get notification of the work. We have to get consent from the town tree warden for any work we do. There's appeals built into that. A homeowner can object, the tree warden can object to what we're doing, and also UI has rights to appeal also. So there's a multi-layer process that's a state law that we have to follow, including consultations are built into the state law. So, no tree can be trimmed or removed without going through that process. So typically that kicks off with people we put into the field. We call them work planners, and they'll go out and they'll start knocking on the doors and discussing with the homeowners the work they want to do. If it's a private tree and the homeowner doesn't want us to do anything, then we stop right there. We can't do anything. And if it's a town tree and the town tree warden decides, I don't want you to do any of this work, then we stop and we move on right there. However, we do have the right to appeal that to our regulator per the state law. If we feel it's a big risk to our system, if there's critical facilities, sewage treatment plants, you got well water, people to heat their homes. You may have medical facilities, medical customers on there. It may be a large number of customers that could be impacted by these trees if they come down during the next extreme weather event, and we may decide to appeal that to our regulator. When we have not stopped our program. There's that second docket. There was overlapping dockets. So the rate case docket allowed us to move forward with our program. The second docket was looking at the tree trimming practices of all the utilities in Connecticut, which are two, CLMP and UI. And we worked through that docket and that process, and the draft decision that came out back in November essentially said, CLMP and UI can move forward with their plans. That's the draft decision. So there was a number of exceptions that were put in from other parties like DEEP, New Haven Garden Club and others who intervened, and it's not a final decision yet. So that final decision is not going to be until after the March 6th technical sessions.
And what is the scope of that decision?
That decision basically states our trimming practices the specifications, how we go about doing the work, etc. So there's just some competing factors here sort of overlapping. In one respect, we are allowed to move forward, and CLMP, they had a storm resiliency docket last year. They were also approved to move forward, and they are moving forward. So this trimming docket is another thing we're watching. Until it's final, we can't change what we're doing right now. But the good thing is we're still in that pilot phase, so there's very little going on right now. So, I mean, that's where we are with the update.
Are there questions from the board?
I have a question. Is there any projections, plan that you can give us that would involve Woodbridge? For example, you have 180 trees picked for trimming, or you have X amount of trees you expect to take down. How much before you actually get to the town is that plan developed, or is basically you go as you get to the town, you start to go road by road?
Yeah, I would love to have an inventory well in advance. We don't have an inventory of our trees, but we're working to get 3 months out in advance of this before we do any work. I mean, we know where we're going to go in Woodbridge already. We have highlighted the roads each year from now until 2021. So we know where we're going to be over the next 8 years in Woodbridge. And that was based on a reliability-centered approach for the worst performing circuits in our territory. And there's about 330 of those across our 17 towns. I mean, we try to get 3 months out in advance.
So I guess where I'm going with
Yep.
that is, will there be the opportunity for the town or the town's residents that may be affected, be afforded the time ahead of time to say, these are the roads we plan on working on, maybe these are the designated trees or the designated properties, so that there is some time to at least take a look at what you're planning on doing and give the opportunity to the residents to have a chance to either appeal or speak up or...
Absolutely. I mean, that's all built into the state law. It has timing requirements in there. The state law technically says we only have to give 15 days notice, and we're not doing that. You know, it's got to be many more months than that. But every tree that we want to look at doing trimming or removal on has to be posted by the town if it's a town tree. That's a law that's been in place for a long time, and the tree warden of the town will put a 8.5 by 11 note on the trees, and they have to leave it there for 10 days. So people driving by or people abutting property owners, if they object to it, they will have to hold a public hearing for those trees.
Other than that plaque and you're allowing a time period for notice, how would a property owner get notice that they would be an affected property?
Well, there's several ways. First of all, we're going to do mailers. We're going to mail to people, you know, in a clear mailer. That's a notification. If there's work, our work planners are going to knock on their doors. They're actually going to knock on people's door, and they're going to talk about each tree that they're going to be doing something with. So, I mean, that happens. It's happening today in our pilot area. So they'll point out and they'll work with them. If they're not home, they'll leave a door hanger, right, with contact information, the cell phone number of the work planner person, so they can call. And we'll check back on that at least 3 times, because what they'll do in the door hanger is they'll leave information in there about the work they want to do. And we have examples of the consent.
Just so you can pass this around.
Yep.
I think this is the notification letter that will go out to all the property owners.
So typically, you say you may start in Woodbridge anytime after June. Typically, you get to a town Woodbridge's size and realizing that we have more trees maybe than most towns our size. You're in the area for a couple of months, or what is the typical time period before you basically get in and get out?
Well, we could do work through the whole year in Woodbridge, depending on how much is to be done each year. It varies. I don't have the plans in front of me for how many miles we're looking at each year in Woodbridge. It does vary across our 17 towns. It's not the same amount every year because it's based, again, on reliability and distance of those circuits that run through the towns.
Are the documents, like this, we obviously don't have enough for everyone here tonight, but are these documents and the consent forms, I know some are in draft form, are they available on your website so people can take a look at what the actual documents
Not
are?
on the website right now, but when we have some examples here of the consent form, we can certainly email them to you. I have sent them out to some people have requested to them. I have it electronically, I could send it.
So maybe you send it
So
out.
we can put it up on our website then?
Sure.
Just so,
It's a 3-part form, because it allows the property owner to have a record of what it is that we're doing, and also allows them to send that to the tree warden as their objection, because the law says you have to do it in writing, but we don't want to have the customers to write something out. They can give that to the tree warden. In some cases, we'll take it for the customers to the tree warden. We'll facilitate that process. So, I mean, I think I want to make sure we highlight that, you know, UI cannot just do what we want. We don't own the trees, it's not our property. You know, we have a specification we're trying to reach here so that we can reduce these outages for extreme weather. But if customers in the town, you know, they don't want the trees removed and they're accepting some level of risk that may occur from the next extreme weather, then that's a choice that can be made by the town or the individual customers.
okay. Anything else from the board members now?
So what happens if a homeowner feels that if he or she has a tree on their property that endangers the power lines? And is there any way for them to contact you to see whether those trees are on your list and to sort of have you come out and look at those trees?
Well, they can do that anytime they want, and it happens about 3,000 times a year, as a matter of fact. We get calls from customers, and we will go out and look at them. Our arborist, Ken over there, will take a look, and we'll certainly will address that. It has to be a threat to our power lines, obviously. You know, it has to be somewhere in proximity, so.
Okay, we'll open up
To questions now. If anyone has a question in the public, please say your name and your address. And there are several people from UI here, obviously, to answer your questions.
Yes.
Yes?
Pam Walder, 153 Keys Road, Woodbridge. How far off of the road does it constitute it being a town tree versus a homeowner's tree?
Well, that varies throughout the town, so that's based on the property lines of the town, and we take a lot of pains to try to research that. You know, sometimes there's discussions with the property owner and the town, and then we do research records. The property lines vary throughout the town, so I couldn't tell you exactly. I mean, there are some rules of thumb in certain towns. I mean, Ken can talk about, there's certain town buffers, etc., but every town's a little different. So we have to make sure we get that right when we do this.
So every area is different then?
Every area is a little different. In some cases, we just err on the side of, let's talk to everybody, you know, both property owners and the town, etc., to make sure we don't get that wrong. And we'll go to the grand list, or we'll come into town hall. Our work planners are very used to doing that and getting the property lines, etc.
I have a couple questions. We have a lot of state roads. So it seems to me there's three, and correct me if I'm wrong, but there's private trees, there may be town trees, but there are also trees that are in the state right of way.
Correct.
So who has authority over the trees that are in the state right of way?
The state, DOT, they have an
So
individual.
how do you interact with them in terms of a tree, let's say in front of my house, or
Yep.
somebody else's house?
We do quite regularly. I mean, we work with them quite a bit. They're called
Who gets
district
to-
landscapers.
Who gets to appeal that, I guess is my point.
Well, if it's a private tree, and the homeowner, we can't do anything if it's a private tree at all.
But if it's a state tree.
If it's
and
state
on-
tree, they can appeal that. They can appeal that to the state district landscaper.
The private
And we'll write
homeowner-
that on the,
private homeowner upon whose, if the tree is on my property, but it's within the state right of way, does the homeowner have any authority to appeal in that situation?
yes, to the state,
Okay.
to the state district landscaper. Yeah.
And who's actually doing the work?
We have a contract company. They're a very large contractor company called Lewis Tree right now. You've probably seen them around.
Is there an aesthetic component to the trimming part? I understand removal is
Yeah.
removal,
Yeah.
possibly, although I'm not even sure I know what that means, but who's managing the aesthetic component, if any, of tree trimming? Because it can be a wreck.
Yeah, I mean,
It's not done well.
that's a challenge to prune it so the tree doesn't get harmed, and also keep it away from the power lines, and also keep it aesthetically pleasing.
And is UI paying for all this?
Yes.
Okay, so is UI also putting any dollars concomitantly in long-term strategic planning to put any power lines underground in any of these communities so that money isn't going toward tree trimming and tree removal, but rather toward a longer range kind of plan, or is
No, currently no.
that's not happening at all? 'Cause-
Any new construction, new developments, like Fieldview Farm, I think it's called in Orange,
Uh-huh.
that's all underground.
Uh-huh.
It's cost beneficial to do it for greenfield type stuff.
Right.
Undergrounding existing assets are very, very expensive.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is I understand tree removal, but tree trimming, trees grow back.
Mhm.
So then you gotta come back around,
Yep.
correct?
Correct. Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong, when you say that UI is
Paying for it, the way it works with these dockets is it's incorporated into our rates.
Correct.
So we're all paying for it, right, it doesn't, anyone
Yeah, and
else?
I think I explained the cost to the average customer, maybe not to you, Madam Selectwoman, but it's $100 million over 8 years. And the way it's structured by our regulator is every year we incur costs is spread out over the next 5 years. So it's kind of in the second year, then in 5 years, and the third year, 5 years. So it kind of builds up a little bit and then tapers down over 8 years. And so the last year, the 8th year, is amortized over 5 years, so that's 13-year total, okay? The average customer who has 700 kilowatt hour bill, maybe $150 a month, the total cost to them for 13 years is about $170.
I have one more question, actually. You may have answered this, and I just missed it. To whom are these appeals being addressed? Who decides?
The tree warden of the town
Uh-huh,
will make a decision, yep, for town trees.
okay, and
Yep.
private trees?
Private trees, we don't do anything. I mean, it's the person's.
It's a full stop.
It's a full stop, yeah.
And state trees?
Well, the state tree would go to the state district landscaper.
Okay.
And that information will be on the consent form. We put that at the bottom.
Thank you.
I have one last question, just to clarify. So the bottom line is, if a town resident has a tree that's marked for either to be taken down or to be trimmed, and they refuse or do not want that tree touched, you will not touch it?
If it's a private tree.
Yeah,
Yes.
private tree.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
One exception. If it's burning in the wires, or if it's contact and electrical hazard, then we may have to do something just to clear that. Yeah. We even get that on day to day. I mean, because the wire might rub throughout the year and then burn into the tree, and the tree becomes electrified, and somebody can touch the tree and get electrocuted. So.
Any other questions?
Yes, go ahead.
Vicky Costa on Yankee Road. I'm unclear as to the status of a tree that is the trunk and 2/3 are on private property, but the branches overlap the right-of-way. Is that a town tree or a private tree or a double tree?
Yeah, the law says that anything that overhangs the public right-of-way
Yeah.
is under the care and control of the tree warden of the town. So, I mean, that'll be a cautious thing. We got to be very careful. If we want to remove the tree, we got to work with the homeowner on that, even though the town has care and control of that tree. So that's sort of a discussion gray area. The tree warden doesn't want to take a private tree that's on private property. They have to have that discussion on that part. So there are some of those areas like that.
But the branches themselves would be the tree wardens.
Yeah, the part that comes across the property line into the public right-of-way. So you may get a trim and not a removal. Yes, ma'am.
When I was member of the Conservation Commission, we always try to uphold the fact that Woodbridge wants to maintain a rural atmosphere, a rural quality of life. And I've heard that when you started some of these programs, you've been very aggressive. Like, driving through Hartford, there's hardly any trees. And what do you do about that?
Yeah, I can't speak for Hartford. That's
But
CLMP
but
territory.
Woodbridge,
Yeah.
how do you actually, when you make these decisions, when you tag trees like this,
Yeah.
you say that we cannot you will stop if the private owner says, and who has who has the burden of liability if in fact one day the tree falls?
Not you.
Not
No,
us?
not you, no.
Okay, so we have no liability.
If a tree comes down on the line today,
Yeah.
even though it's your tree and
Yeah.
you didn't maintain it,
Yeah.
we repair it, and that cost gets spread out to all the customers across 17 towns.
So,
That hasn't changed, that's always been like that.
okay.
I mean, there was a rumor that we would do that, but that's not true. Yeah. If somebody hits our pole with their car, then typically we try to go after the person.
I see.
Yeah, that's a different situation. But, in general, though, I think, we all, citizens and the town, should look at their trees and maintain their trees and make sure they're healthy and take a look at them once in a while to make sure they're not about to come crashing down,
There was a statement I heard. What did you mean by first, what was that? The right tree, the first tree. What is that in your policy?
It's right tree, right place.
Right place, yeah. What
Yeah,
is
so
that?
that's sort of a concept that underneath the power lines, you typically should not put a tree that's going to grow into the power lines. So you should grow something that will stop at about 20 feet, 25 feet. And if you're going to plant away, if you're going to plant larger trees, plant them away from the power lines. So you get this effect of sloping away. So if you go on the Arbor Day Foundation website, they have a very nice depiction of the way it should look. It's also in the state's Vegetation Management Task Force. They characterize it as sort of an amphitheater effect. There's some trees that should not be planted under the power lines or really anywhere because they're invasive species, they're weak, etc., and they come down during these storms.
But mostly, the trees that we're concerned about, I think, in Woodbridge, some of them are over 100 years old. So we can't just say, and then sometimes they might be on the other side of the road and they fall on the power lines that are across the street. So,
I mean, typically we won't be looking at a tree across the road
yeah,
because that's farther than the 8 feet that we're looking at. Unless it's a true hazard tree, dead, diseased, dying. Part of our program is also to look at these hazard trees for removal. Those that are obviously not going to make it.
I just want to reiterate, you will get your documents to us and we'll put them up on the website. Is there a place for continued questions to be sure if people have questions, they can forward them to us at Town Hall and we can get answers from you? Or do you have a responsive website or any place for people to get
Yeah, we
more
have a Q&A
information?
drafted, and as we learn more and we get more Q&A, we keep on building it, and we can send that along to you also with those basic questions about customers' rights, etc.
And we'll also include the statute, and I would encourage anyone who has additional questions, please send them to Jerry Shaw, to me at Town Hall, and we will be sure to get answers. We speak with UI, and Mike is always available to us to get more information.
Yeah, you have a direct line to Mike. I mean, he can get questions and off to our arborist.
Yeah, for the time being, I know Jerry has been sending me a few questions here and there, so if you want to keep up with that process, it's fine.
Right, we've had a few emails that we forwarded. Nancy?
When
Last question.
I don't have a very loud voice.
Me?
I live on a state highway, which can be a great advantage. We get plowed first and the power comes on very quickly. Sometimes we're known on Litchfield Turnpike as the house with the garden. So I left to go shopping or something. And I came home and a huge maple branch had been cut by the DOT, which had created a shade garden with a very elegant blue hosta, which withered and died quite quickly. So I complained to the guys, and they called their supervisor from the DOT, and he said, "You got no rights. This is our property. We can do what we want." So I called the arborist, and he came out, and he said, "Oh, God, they're idiots." But the limb was already gone. Then I have another story. Several years ago in February, we woke up to an explosive sound, looked out the window, a car, a Saab, had sheared off a telephone pole, dug a trench in front of the garden, whacked another pole, and landed on its nose on a third pole. And I looked out and I said, there's really something different here. It also sheared off a large three-legged snow white birch tree that we really loved. The insurance company was very generous. We replaced that tree, and there it is, fully grown and beautiful, but it's on, I guess, state land. You said we got 8 feet off the road, lady. I don't want to lose that tree. I don't want to deal with the DOT and their crazed cutters. But I have a feeling from that experience that I'm going to lose my beautiful tree because of my earlier experience.
Right, I mean, we've got to work through the process here. You know, it's a state law. We can look at that particular tree right now for it if you want, and we can give an assessment on it. If you'd like, we can go out there and see where it is proximity-wise, et cetera. And we can do that tomorrow for you if you'd like, to have a discussion with you.
So is trimming an option, or you're just...
We'll take a look at it. You know, we'll come out there and take a look at it.
So Nancy, let me suggest that you take advantage of this offer. So speak to him after, give him your address, and be sure, take a look. Okay, does that kind of wrap it up for tonight? And we'll follow up on this again. We appreciate your coming out. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you.